Welcome to today's Software AG webcast titled Driving Sustainability with BPM and Process Mining. Today's program will be presented by Joseph Blondu, Head of Eris Product Marketing here at Software AG, and Jan Ricken, Head of Group Organization and Process Excellence at Insevo. As we move through today's program, we invite you to submit any questions that you might have. The Q&A tab is located on the right side in the engagement dashboard. Type your question into that box and hit submit whenever you're ready. We'll go through our questions live at the end. We encourage you to engage during our presentation. Any commentary and insights, just drop it in the chat. Additional documentation is also available, and you'll find both of these features in the engagement dashboard. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to you, Joseph.
Thank you very much, Danielle, and thanks, Jan, for joining me in today's webinar. I'm really glad to talk with you about sustainability, business process management, and process mining, and how it goes at Insevo. So that's going to be a highlight for us. So to start with, I have a short introduction, which I will go very fastly over because I think right now the need for sustainability is pretty clear. So we see all C11 are not starting, but are continuing to push and to care for sustainability. We see there is a lot of regulatory pressure. We need to act on the climate change. At the same time, consumers, or we as consumers, are very interested in the sustainability topic, and we want to buy from brands that are aware about this kind of topic, and that's where Insevo comes to the game, for example. And of course, in the end, this is a huge market opportunity because sustainability is a driver for transformation, is a driver for new markets, and this is where also it can be of an advantage for you, for your company, to go for sustainability. So before we deep dive into more materials, I just want to take a quote from Stefan Riedel, a German academical person, and he said, "It is only through process change and the application of process-centered techniques that companies can fully leverage the power of," I shorten that, "sustainability in the organization." So that means sustainability has to do with processes, has to do with business process management, and thus also with ARIS. And so it has a deep connection, and this is what we want to show you today in this webinar. So how sustainability can be really enabled through processes, or how processes can help us turn ESG into reality. So, and I guess you know this concept of shared value. It is about people, planet, and profit, with the idea that we need to put that into a balance so that really we take care of the people, we take care of the planet, but at the same time, of course, we want to have sustainable, profitable organizations that are bringing sustainable business value. And how does that bring and come all together? It is through a fourth P, which is processes. So processes, the ways your organization is working, these are the backbones of your strategy. These are the things that enable you to be sustainable, that enable you to make initiatives real and to prove your sustainability actions. So really, in a nutshell, you can say that sustainability only becomes real when it comes down to processes. Without processes, without the execution in the processes, there is no sustainability. So as we said, processes is the fourth P. What is ARIS? What does ARIS has to do with sustainability? So ARIS and BPM has been driving transformation in general throughout the last more than 30 years. So as we look at processes, as we look at transformation, we can bring them all together. So if you think about the changes in risk, in the compliance, if you think about customer experience, or maybe new things that we see upcoming, IT changes, ChatGPT, this is all a transformation that we see in the company. And this is where BPM, where processes help your company, your organization to transform and to support that transformation. And the same is true for sustainability. It's just another type of transformation. So it is really about enabling an organization to drive forward and to move forward a more environmentally and socially sustainable operations. It brings three main benefits I want to go through with you before we go in some more details about the offerings. It brings you transparency, it brings you control, and it brings you accountability. And probably Jan has a lot of connections with the sustainability and ESG people in his organization. I'm sure these three words are very important to them. So when you talk about ESG, you need that transparency. You need that transparency to understand, okay, what are my processes? What are the structures? Where are we right now? What kind of actions did we take already? Do we want to take? And what kind of sustainability or UN goals, for example, do we want to take to bring our strategy forward? So for that, you need transparency. It's a key word. Once we have this transparency, you need, of course, to take control of these operations. So you need to define processes, to define operations, but of course, you need to control if it works the right way. Do my people really shut down their computer in the evening? Do my people really make sure they don't use the paper? And so forth. Yeah. Do we reduce emissions while being careful about the lighting, for example? So you need to control that process execution. That's where process mining comes to place, and we will see a little bit more afterwards. But you also need to just to make sure you are compliant to the rules and regulations in place, the one that are relevant to you. And of course, you want to make sure that your employees are engaged. Third point, so we have transparency, we have control, and then we have accountability. Sustainability is a lot about reporting. So, of course, you need to make the actions, to put the initiatives in place to control them. But at the end, what most organizations and company will need is to be reporting. So, you will need some information, some insights, some data, KPIs for example, your non-financial statement. So, whatever regulations you're working against, you need to report on that. And that's where also connecting that to BPM will help you to really create some database to analyze the processes, to gather all the data, and to be able to report on that. So that's more generic onto the BPM. And looking at that, of course, too fast, we decided to create an accelerator package last year. So this RS for Sustainability Accelerator package. Um, Before I proceed, it's important to say it's not a product. It's some kind, I said, a package, a reference content, a reference framework, some kind of procedural model, how you can connect business processes with sustainability. It comes for free, so you can download that. I will share the link at the end so that you can reuse or at least get some insights, information, and ideas how you can do that for your company. These packages has four phases, which are very much aligned with some sustainability projects we've analyzed before launching that. It's about assessing the maturity of the organization. It's about building a strategy. Once you know where you are, you want to build on the strategy and adapt your operations. Third one, it's about operationalizing. So you need to put that in place, let people know, control if it works. And the fourth one is about tracking and reporting reporting what I mentioned before, really making sure that you're accountable, that you can report, that you are compliant, and that you are able to track these different initiatives. So now I go through these four phases in a little bit more details shortly, because I do think that what Jan has to show and tell us is very exciting. So I don't want to take too much time. So assessing phase, that's the first phase. Sometimes you did that already. Sometimes you don't need ARIS for that, because it's really checking, okay, where are you right now? So what is the maturity of the organization? How are people reacting? What kind of initiatives do we have already? What is the materiality analysis? So really checking what kind of processes, initiatives can we put in place? How much impact can we have on emissions, on water consumptions, whatever. So it's really about getting a standpoint where you are right now. And here, especially mining also plays a big role, because it can help you to look at your currently running processes and taking a look at, okay, where can we change emissions? Where can we change the way we work or adapt our policies so that we are more sustainable? So mining gives you insights in this first phase in assessing. The second phase is about building that strategy. So once you know where you are then able to really map the company vision. So what the C-level wants to achieve with your processes, what you can achieve with setting goals. For example, we have some templates, some model types where we have the UN goals that you can reuse. It can help you to connect that with your strategic objectives, for example, reduce emissions or reduce energy consumption. And then to connect that with the relevant organizations, so they are always up to date and connected in the system, to connect that with KPIs that you can check on later on, especially at the last phase, track and report, and to bring that all together. Yeah, to bring all this information together with the processes. So that's also the point of time where you start redesigning a process, where you start taking travel management as an example, where you start to say, okay, maybe we need to put a policy in place that helps us to reduce air travel, and we have more train, or we have more people driving together in the same car, these kind of things. So you redesign the processes, and then you know in which direction you want to go. In the third phase, because it's good to have your strategy, to have your processes, to know where you are, but it doesn't help anyone if your whole workforce doesn't know about it. So you really need to operationalize that. You need to really build on that framework, to build on those processes, and make everyone aware in the organization. So communicate, roll out the new processes to your different stakeholders. Can be, by the way, also someone outside of the company that has access to your processes. So you roll out a process. So you really ask the people to read through a new process, maybe to read through a new policy, and you can even ask them to confirm that they wanna or that they will work that way. That helps you to see, do we need to train maybe people a little bit more, but that also helps you to prove later on. So it's audit proof. So to prove, okay, well, we did put the processes in place and we had 90% of confirmation. So we did the best we could. And it also at this point of time, you may want to automate some processes via workflows in some ERP systems, and the processes that you have in ARIS gives you basically the blueprint to do that. And last but not least, you've done that. Everyone is aware. So everyone is starting to work, hopefully the right way. Then at the end, you want to track and report. So you really want to see, okay, we did put the initiative in place. We had the KPIs. We had some compliance and risk that we needed to consider. And now we want to check, are the processes running the right way? So here you can, again, reuse process mining to check on how the processes are working, how the processes have improved. That's one thing. And you can reuse all the data, including these KPIs from ARIS, to put that in your non-financial statement, where you will be able, basically, at the push of the button, to report on, okay, this was the initiative on SDG goal number 7. We wanted to reduce emissions, and we had 20% of reduction. So that looks good, and that's our goal for next year. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what the ARIS Accelerator package brings to you. And now I'm very happy to hand over to Jan from Encevo, who basically put that into reality. So who basically did the right project and reuse a lot of process mining to drive sustainable energy at the energy leader in Luxembourg, Encevo. That's your turn, Jan.
Thanks a lot, Joseph, for this great introduction. So good afternoon to everybody. Good morning, wherever you're located. So happy to share our driving sustainable energy with process mining journey with you. So we have done a first proof of concept, and I'm happy to share some first insights. We are not at the end. It's really a journey. But maybe just for the introduction on, that was too fast, on what we are doing. So we are an integrated utility, and here you see some key figures on the right side. I'm sitting in the Encevo holding, and we have supply of energy business. We have a network business, so-called TSO, so transmission and distribution. which is a regulated business, and and we have behind the meter, so some retail downstream. So there we have local services with energy efficiency company services. We have district heating. We have smart building. We have EV chargers and so on. So it's all services you can imagine behind the meter. And interestingly, this is, I would say, a complete value chain from really energy generation, so renewable energy production. So we have PV, wind. Fortunately, we are not in the situation that we have coal plants or something like that to produce energy, so that we do not have. But we have the purchasing of energy, because with the energy that we produce in Luxembourg, we cannot cover all the demand, so we have to purchase energy. So we have a trading desk. We are doing some storage and trading activities, and then of course we have the sales of power and gas in B2B and B2C. We have these challenges. So if you can just go one back, because for the key figures, I will flip the slides, no problem. Because for the key figures, you see that in our group we have 2,500 employees. You see our sales, and interestingly, the average CO2 emissions of our leasing fleet is going down every year. And for 25, one of our objectives is to arrive at zero. So we'll embed a lot of objectives in our CSR management plan that covers many different objectives related to our sustainability path. I think now we can go to the next slide. So in fact, our vision, our mission is really that we are a leading and sustainable energy player in the greater region. So the good thing for us is that our strategy is a sustainable energy transition. So we don't need to invent green actions or green stuff. So our core business is green. So in fact, we see that the rapidly changing energy landscape is, of course, putting a lot of challenges related to secure access and competitive supply of energy, but also shape the transition really in our energy sector. So deploying EV loading points, PV in all facets, electrification in total, and innovative projects. So and that we do with local communities and making sure that we have all our people on board. So our people in the group are empowered and strive for excellence, and we try to mobilize all our forces to bring everything together to succeed in this sustainable energy transition. So that's already a good start for us. And the good news is that our CEO truly believes also in that and is pushing that mission and vision really forward. So here you see where we are located. So we are in the heart of Europe, in Luxembourg, pretty small country where we have wind farms, hydropower, natural gas storage, mostly PV farms. But we also have, as I said, energy efficiency company doing carbon audits, inventories, all types of, I would say, consulting also to support our customers in getting more energy efficient, electricity storage, and also some participations. And we have some activities also in Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Based on our investments, so you see that it's growing. So we are investing in our assets is, of course, driving also PV installation, wind forward. So we are investing heavily in of course, green renewable energy production. Now I'm responsible for operational excellence standards. So where you see this includes business process management, but also project management with the PMO, as well as data strategy management and data protection, our CSR standards, and the classical data management. And these operational excellence standards help us to increase the maturity. And as these things are interlinked, because in the processes, obviously, you need data. You need to make sure that the right people work on that. When there are improvements, then it's typically done in projects. And of course, all this is linked with our strategic objectives of the sustainability. So the strategy and sustainability is one. So we also have a deep link with our strategy team. So you see that it helps also to have these operational excellence standards together, because we can then easier link these together. And yeah, we are of course also, I would say, located in the holding, in the group that is also overlooking and supporting the different implementations in our different entities. And of course, our objective and mission is to support our entities in driving the maturity in these standards further. So there are local teams also that implement and work actively on the processes and on the sustainability objectives. Now, how business process management is embedding sustainability. So here we have our business process management framework. So we have process objectives, strategy. So what are the areas in which we want to work? Process organization. So this is typically the process owner, process responsible, process executor, process designer, and so on. Integrated business architecture is related to the different projects we entertain to make sure that we improve communication and knowledge, make sure that the people know about what is done. Process infrastructure and tools is making sure that we have a solid tool set and best practices used. And the process oriented performance and process mining is a area that will make sure that the objectives that we have set and with the indicators that are describing how good we are, will make sure that we get really the rationales to understand how good we are performing in our processes. And this links to the map that Joseph has already shown, where we have a sustainability path, and then it links also with other topics. And I will quickly show, on our journey, what we have done so far. So you see that there is I don't know if there is no. Okay. We see on the top left our materiality analysis. So this is the first part in the assessments. So first you do a maturity analysis, and then you do a materiality. So maturity, materiality, it's very different, because materiality in the CSR or ESG is the important topics for you. So for our business, for our value chain. And you see on the top left quadrant related to all the topics, well, everything to our energy business is of course valued more important than, for instance, water management or effluents. So this is not our business. Of course, we take care of this and we have it on the radar, but it's clearly not a material topic for us. For us, it's really emissions. It's related to affordable, clean energy. So these are the topics. And this is freely communicated also through our annual report. And this summer we have, in relation to getting ready to the CSRD, so to the CSR regulatory directive, we are on the way to finalize the double materiality. So it's adding also the financial perspective on this materiality analysis. And then a next step is here on the roles and responsibilities. So here we have it, define organization. So you see that we have a strategy cycle and an operational cycle. So in the strategy cycle, we define the topics, we discuss it with the steering committee, which is a transversal group of saying employees. We present it to the executive committee, and then finally the group strategy committee is validating all this. So you see there is really at the highest level in the company a validation cycle on our CSR strategy. And then the operational cycle is then working together with the experts and our employees on pulling the data together, making the hard work in the day-to-day in getting our sustainability objectives achieved. And then here on the right side, you see our value creation model. So our energy value chain, you see that in the middle. So the supply of energy, the grid, the retail. So this is our organization structure, our different businesses, right? And as input, we have our different capabilities that help us to perform our business. And then as an output, you see that we ensure a responsible, inclusive cooperation. We are developing sustainable operation, and we are sharing value with communities. So these are the typical ESG dimensions. And there we also have the link to the SDGs, to the Sustainable Development Goals. So for us, material or the most relevant are 7, 8, 9, 12, and 13. So that it's out of the 15, the ones that are most material to us, and where also we link our objectives to these SDGs. Now, the link into the BPM works as follows. So it is consistent, making clear that our energy value chain, as we have it in our value generation model, is exactly the same at what we find in ARIS. So here, sorry, on the right-hand side, you see then our ARIS model with the different processes of the holding, of the supply of energy business, of the grid business, and the retail. So this is an ARIS model that you can then, that employees can go in and see and watch their processes with all facets that are relevant for their business. And when it comes to rollout, we have here our sustainability management plan, which is public, so you can look it up in our annual report. So there you will see all our objectives related to our sustainability, which are all strategic. And one of these is to substantially increase the capacity of renewable production, of course. And it's in line with the SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. And the government sets a target that by 2030, a target of 25% of green power should be achieved. And of course, we as energy producer, but also as a a grid operator, we are in the middle of this. So the example that I will show you where the link is to how we use the mining with our sustainability is exactly here. So it is including the photovoltaic connection process. So what process is this? When you are living in a house or an apartment and you decided to buy a PV installation and somebody is coming and putting it on your roof, it needs to be connected to the grid. Otherwise, you cannot feed in, and it must be connected somehow to make sure that you can use it properly. And of course, the quicker it is connected, the better we will of course do in achieving our objective, also in supporting our government target. And this is where we use process mining. So the PV connection process is in fact measured with process mining, and through that analytics we find out where are the bottlenecks, where can we improve to get faster to serve the customer, and by the end of the day make sure that we get these PV installations quicker connected to the grid. And only if they're connected to the grid, the sun pays off, not before. And so this is very important. And in fact, we use that, and we have used it for a proof of concept using the process mining tool. Now, the difference between process mining and our operating systems, because we have Salesforce, we have SAP, and other, I would say, applications, business applications, is that the teams in the operational business context will rely on, for instance, Salesforce when a customer calls in and is asking something about his dossier. So concrete questions, okay, where are we? Is there a document missing? And so on. So they see really their customer statistics, aggregated numbers and cases. So all in Salesforce is done by cases. Whereas in the process mining, we can then look up here on this upper level, really on the end-to-end process, by considering the logs coming out of Salesforce. This is where the process starts, but then it goes through SAP. And then it goes also to other systems, but it's mainly Salesforce and SAP, so our ERP systems. And then there we look at process conformance, process automation, process variance, end-to-end throughput times, and we provide rationales to get to the bottom of why the things are as measured. So why are we performing so slow? Why do we have certain bottlenecks? Why do we have a lots of variance? So these are then things that can be looked up and investigated through the process mining tool. So indeed, what we were able to do is to do a data-driven process discovery. So we were generating the executed as is process without error or bias. So it was not necessary, in fact, to have fastidious and long workshops with process designers. So we could extract from the process mining the executed process. Knowing that, of course, you have to take some decisions related to so which process to take, because there are a lot of different process executions, processes, and then you have to say, okay, let's take a certain percentage with the one that we are most confident in as a standard executed process. Second, we are looking at process mining and performance. So we can visualize standard KPIs and metrics to help the process owners, in that case, to find inefficiencies in the process. So like bottlenecks, errors, longer waiting times. So the classic process mining and process performance inefficiencies. We were also able to do conformance analysis, so comparing the ideal process with the discovered process, and then benchmarking related to conformance, which is also interesting. And then finally, also the tool was providing some template for transformation, making sure that for the next process we can reuse, I would say, all the different setups and analytics that we have created. So with just little adaptation. So we did use it by using the event logs. So there we have done discovery and we generated the model. So quite a classic approach. And then with the event log and the as-is model, we could do then conformance checking. So which is then called diagnostics. And with the event log and the as-is model, again, we could also do enhancement. So embed also KPIs in the new model. So that is then called overlay. So the process that we looked at was, as said, the grid connection process for PV systems. So we specified the cases. There was a documented process also in ARIS, which was called like that. We have, of course, selected specific time frame, so there it was the complete 22 data. And we have taken from the CRM data and partly also synchronized with SAP. So the idea is set, so this was now intermediary results. Meanwhile, we are a bit further, but not fully validated. Interesting is that we could generate a process. So based on what we found out on the executed process, the most common variant was then decided to select it and to transfer it to an ARIS process, so into a BPMN model that clearly puts all the executed activities in a BPMN process. Next, with the conformance, we could find out that we had many cases and lots of variants. So, and then we asked ourselves, we were a bit frightened and we said, whoa, how can that come? And then, yes, indeed, we found out that there were many variants, too many, and we are working on that. But you need to be aware that so many variants, sometimes there are good reasons for it, but sometimes also it's then, questionable if this variant should be accepted as a standard or if it should be somehow worked on to be removed. And then within these cases, we found out that we had some non-conformant cases versus conformant cases. And then we could also put then the KPIs in this overlay model, which is nice that the process owner can then really see the process with the respective KPIs. So that is also a really nice feature. And then finally, we have done process overview, so the classical overviews, and they come also, I think, with certain standards, but we of course have adapted it to our needs. We have done the process model overlay. In the process explorer, we could really then see all the variants and decide, okay, which are the interesting variants that we could then analyze further. So in the case analysis, and then we check the compliance. So is it compliant with what we are expecting? And then the deep analysis on waiting times, because as I explained, the longer the process takes, the more difficult it is to achieve these objectives. And therefore waiting times, be it our internal waiting times, but also we found out that the waiting times from the customer is important because they might not be aware that a document is missing. So we are waiting for the customer, but the customer is not aware that the document is missing. So therefore, there's a waiting time. And then it is interesting, of course, to set some logic in the process that is then sending reminders to make sure that these waiting times can be addressed effectively. So as said, this is just, I would say, a small snapshot out of our journey. But the 3 key takeaways would be that to start with the business process management framework and continuous improvement methods is the starting point, at least for us. We are working with Lean Six Sigma and continuous improvement methods already, analyzing the processes. And this is, very, very important to us. Second, the CSR strategy with its concrete objectives is linked and aligned with the business processes. And third, I've shown that the PV connection process is measured and improved with mining to accelerate our sustainable energy transition. So this is, I think, the 3 key takeaways from the beginning of our journey related to how we use process mining in our sustainability objectives. I think this is it. Maybe we go for the questions just afterwards, Joseph. Yeah.
Yeah, afterwards. I can take over a second if you don't mind. Thanks a lot for all the insights. Already got some feedback that, wow, this is such a great story, and it is exactly the same thinking that we did try to push with the accelerator package. Is that just a different way of implementing that? So really appreciate that you shared your insights. As a short summary slide for everyone, if you want to learn more, you can rewatch that webinar afterwards because the recording will be shared indeed. But of course, there are some more pages that you can go to and look at. So, for example, there's a summary page where you have links to videos, to different articles and webinars. So it's called softwareag.com/aris-sustainability. That's the first one. On that page, you will also find a link on how to download the accelerator package. And last but not least, you can see that also on the ticker. If you click on that, you go there already. There is a more detailed demo of what I just showed at the beginning of the webinar, but I said for time purposes and to give more time to Jan, we decided, okay, we put that away and you can watch it afterwards because live customer stories are much more interesting. But still, I think it is useful for you to click on that. So make sure to click on this sustainability demo link, and it will be all available also in the documents that Daniel has put together for us. And now, indeed, I would like to jump into the Q&A. And I see there have been some questions already in the chat. So I would start with one that could go for you, Jan. So what would you say are the biggest hurdles when dealing with making processes more sustainable? Question mark. There's also a question mark then on greenwashing. And what about the recognition of the importance of the topic and how do you deal with that? Maybe some more management strategic thinking on how it went at Insevo. And you just mentioned at the beginning the C-level, the CEO is behind the project. That's already a good point, but maybe you want to share a little bit more. And you're muted right now if you want to talk.
Yeah, sure. So of course we have the beauty that our core business is sustainable energy transition. So therefore I would say it comes by nature. Of course, with all businesses, you can be more sustainable and the impacts are very different from industry to industry. You can certainly do things, and I would recommend to start really with materiality and to see, okay, what are the real material topics, and then from there see, okay, what are processes that are linked to these material topics. So this is where you really can start and also get some relevance and impact in saying starting measuring process and improving process related to this. So this is how I would see it. And the good thing is, of course, that yeah, we have strong link also to the strategy team, and we are very close to that.
Thank you for the insights, Jan. So now I found the share button for the question. The
Okay.
next one, I will take it, I think. Aris for Sustainability Accelerator package. How customizable are the KPIs and processes within this package? There are existing ones on the system, but where will be industry-specific issues and KPIs? Can this be easily adapted? Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for that. As said, it is a template. It's some kind of reference content. So in that reference content, we have KPIs that we define within that reference package. But of course, you can adapt them at any time. You can remove them. You can add new ones. That's all your decision. And what I just said for the KPIs that you can then adapt and customize, it is true for everything else in this accelerator package. So we have examples on the strategy. We have put some templates for the UN SDG goals, but everything you can adapt. There is also a reference model with risk and regulations in place. Of course, you will need to adapt, to remove, and to create new ones that fits your exact needs and industries. So yes, it can be adapted and must be adapted. So it's really more some kind of an inspiration, what it did obviously for some customers, and then you can bring it to your points. Let me check the chat. I think this one is pretty interesting too. How do you ensure that the process changes that you have uncovered with process mining actually reach every employee and that they can implement the changes accordingly? I would say that goes to your experience, Jan. How did you do that?
Yeah. So of course we are not at the end, but what typically happens in such analytics is that it's then discussed with the process owner and with the people that work in the process. So we have a process sponsor and an owner. So there are different sponsors for their departments and the owner who owns the end-to-end process. And then based on the results and the insights, it's then improved and discussed together with the business analysts, and then of course together with the process executors, so the employees working in the day-to-day. They address these, they go then deep and try to make sure that they improve the process altogether. And then when we measure again in the next cycle for this year or next year, then we will hopefully see then a improvement in our different KPIs. So it's always important to have a baseline to start somewhere, then you improve. So this is the typical DMake cycle that you can make sure that you can also say, okay, you improved from that year to that year to that year, that you also have rationale, that you can somehow also build then a business case in saying, okay, your improvements have impact.
Okay, thank you. I think I have another one for you. I guess people are very interested how you did it. Were you able to use mining output to generate the sustainability KPIs for your report, or you use it for compliance checking?
Mm-hmm. Well, the compliance checking as it is used in the mining tool is the process executed as we expect, and then also there are then certain rules, and also you need to understand how how it works. So is it compliant? So we did not check at now the compliance controls and so on, but we were more looking on is it executed as we expect, and what are the waiting times? What can we do to reduce the waiting times, because they have the impact, in fact, on the success in getting, saying, more PV connections done. So this was how we use it in our context.
Thank you.
And sustainability KPIs itself, what does it mean? So we have, of course, other areas where we do our complete carbon inventory, because emissions is also another topic that is material to us. And there, for instance, we also measure our complete carbon inventory, scope 1, 2, 3, which is scope 3 very complex, because we are currently also working on a decarbonization path, a net zero trajectory.
That sounds great. Thank you, Jan. I see a quick question on the can process. Sorry, I need to share that. Can the process mining work with any ERP other than SAP and Oracle? Yes, of course we can. So it can be internal system, external. So we can really go onto all different kind of systems. We are able to have some adapters for many of the standard systems, and we also have, what I want to mention there, a specific solution for specific systems. So I will just in a second, when I'm finished talking, share a link in the chat so that you can review on this kind of technical data integration that gives you more insights, where you can take all the informations for process mining. But yeah, it is pretty open. So I saw one other question I would like to just go through in a second. Sorry, I can't find it anymore. It was about the maturity. So I can't find it anymore, but it comes back to what Jan said at the beginning. There was a question on the factors for maturity. And what kind of factors do you consider for this? Yeah, what are the factors assessing the maturity of an organization? Thanks for pushing up. Where basically and normally we go for some kind of topics like environment, climate change, innovation, technology, people, ethics. So these are the kind of things that you can ask on the maturity. So this is where we have some kind of a questionnaire in the accelerator package that can help you to structure it and to ask on the maturity. There are also some template questions you can adapt and share with your employees and workforce so that you get insights on the maturity. But I want to make, again, this difference between maturity and materiality, because maybe the questions was related to materiality. And this is a little bit different. So it's really, the materiality is really more going into the different areas where you can have an impact while doing a sustainability initiative. So materiality is really looking at what can we do as an initiative, what is the impact on ESG, what we have, what is the ability to execute, and this kind of factors you are assessing while doing your maturity and materiality analysis. You are using some specific ARIS attributes to measure that, basically to rate that, so that in the end you can see, okay, we see that it seems that we have a high ability to execute on changing our travel policy. It has a high impact on emissions, and that's why we want to go for that initiatives, because it gives us some insights. It can be one of the most important initiatives for our company. So I think there are a few other questions in the chat, but as we reach the end of the webinar today, I would like to take the question with me and to check which one we didn't answer today, and check that with Jan and the colleagues, and come back to you on that. So few things that you should know. There's a survey. If you didn't have the time to take the survey, on the right hand side of your screen, next to Q&A, media, and then survey, you can click on the survey and rate us, give us all your valuable feedback. We want to hear from you. Did you like the webinar? What should we improve? What is good already? Before we finish, and while you're doing that, I want to give you one insight on the next webinar, which will take place on September 27th. And it's about the art of automated processes without dying in the attempt. We have our product manager there talking, and we also have a customer, the Standard Bank of South Africa, who will relate on their experience with the topic. So the link is in the ticker, so you just click on it and then you get the link to the registration form. First, I would like to thank you, Jan, for your participation, for sharing all your insights today. I think it was a great session with a lot of questions, which shows it was interesting. Thanks a lot. And
You're welcome.
Thanks everyone for your attention, and see you soon online or maybe not online. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.